What's going on, guys? Nick Lestegor here, Exit 12 Homebrew in the house, in the brewery this morning for a brew day, a fun brew day. And it's fun because we are experimenting. And within homebrewing, everybody knows that experimentation is one of the funnest aspects of brewing a beer, from the planning stage to the first pour. And so I'm experimenting today with an ingredient that has recently hit the market. A few breweries, probably smaller breweries, have come out with beers with this ingredient, and now homebrewers are getting to try it. And so I'm really excited to try it. It is PHANTASM. And PHANTASM is basically the skin from Sauvignon Blanc grapes, I believe. What's really cool is that it's in powder form, and the idea is that it's supposed to it's supposed to activate the thiols within the beer during fermentation and bring out some of those fruitier, juicier flavors. And so there's two different ways you can add this PHANTASM powder. One of them is in the whirlpool, and then another one is in the dry hop. And so what we're gonna do today is that the beer is a collab. It's a collaboration with Dave over at Big Dog Brewing. And so we're basically brewing the same beer, except he's using a different yeast. And so what's really fun about this beer, again, obviously it's New England style, but what we're basically doing is adding this into the fermenter, right before yeast pitch. So what we're gonna do is simple New England IPA grain bill recipe, took a little bit from the learnings of the revamped Donovan recipe that I did, adding a ton of flaked adjuncts. And so I took a little bit of knowledge gain from that, a little bit of education, and then mixed it in with some of Dave's suggestions. So we're going in with a 50-50 grain bill, a 50-50 base grain bill of two-row and Pilsner. My grain is coming from Valley Malt. He's gonna have different grain, but the concept is the same. Two-row and Pilsner, 2 pounds of flaked oats, and then we're hitting it with a pound of white wheat, 8 ounces of carapils, and then 6 ounces of honey malt. I gotta sneak some honey malt in there. I love honey malt, and I got a ton of it over at NHC in June in Pittsburgh. So that sounds like a really fun grain bill. And then with the hops, really straightforward. Haven't used Galaxy in probably over a year. Been a long time, and we've had Galaxy. So going in with Galaxy and Citra, 2 ounces each, 175-degree whirlpool for 10 minutes. And then we're gonna dry hop right before the end of fermentation, right at the end of fermentation, 2 ounces each of Citra and Galaxy again. Simple grain bill, relatively, for New England. And a simple hopping schedule. And the reason for that is because we really want to test out what the PHANTASM does in this beer. And then we're going in with no boil addition, by the way. No hot boil. Dave doesn't like bitterness. Dave's he's fickle. He's a fickle boy, and he doesn't want a lot of bitterness in his New England's beers in general. Fair enough. So no boil additions if you didn't notice. But and then lastly, I'm going in with Cosmic Punch from Omega, and he's gonna utilize Capri from Imperial Yeast. So this is fun. The club is doing a PHANTASM experiment. We're all brewing with PHANTASM our own way. The experiment is not limited to one specific recipe, one specific yeast, whatever. We're brewing whatever beer we want, utilizing PHANTASM however we want, and then we're sending the beers to each other, and we're all gonna try them on Zoom. So it's really a fun brew day, but the concept itself is really fun. We all get to try our own, each other's beers, and it's the best way, if you're experimenting, it's the best way to determine how you want to use an ingredient moving forward. We're all using PHANTASM in different ways. We all have different grain bills, different hop schedules, and it'll give us a good learning to be able to say, oh, I liked the way Dave used PHANTASM. The next beer I brew with PHANTASM, maybe I'll utilize it that way as well. So it's a fun brew day. We are about to start, and so let's get into this brew day. All right, we're ready to mash in. We're at our strike temp of 153. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna turn down mash temp to 149, which is what we're shooting for. And hopefully by the time we get done mashing in, it'll be right around that temperature. I'm turning down the power percentage to about 80. All right, beeping, beeping, beeping away. The salts have already been added. Take the lid off. Ooh. All right, sit that on top. I got my flaked adjuncts and my grain in 2 different buckets here. So what I'm gonna do is start with the grain. Tell you, a nice little bassy bass. Nice little bassy bass. All right, let's mash in. It's just slightly more difficult. You know, I can't just throw all the grain in because I don't have the malt pipe that lines the inner wall of the unit. So I just have to make sure that I'm careful, excuse me, when I'm pouring this grain. Already smelling absolutely fantastic. Let's toss in some flaked adjuncts. There we go. Get that boy all milky. That milky mouthfeel. Which is what we're shooting for. Still sitting at 153 for the mash temp. Started reading some posts this morning and some people commented on our Instagram, which was super nice, but I started reading about how some people did not see a bump in efficiency when removing the anvil malt pipe. So at the end of the day, this may have been all for naught, but experimenting is exactly what it is. It's experimenting. Finish up. Only got a little bit more grain. Still liking the consistency of the mash. And I can definitely tell on the sides here that the water up top of the unit, at the very top, is definitely getting integrated more. It would seem. It could be mental, but it would seem that it's getting a little bit more integrated with the rest of, you know, the grist, the rest of the water as well. Toss the rest of this grain in. There we go. All right. So all the grain is in. We're sitting at 148 on the mash temp. So that should pop right back up to 149. That means that my calculation for strike water temp was on point. I don't lean on the software for that, because it messes with the calculator a little bit the timer when I'm mashing in. So 153, probably could have done 154. All right. The mash is a little bit thinner than I thought it would be, to be honest. I thought it'd be a little thicker than this. I wanted it a little thicker anyway. I'll have to look at the software. I'll have to look at the profile, the equipment profile on BrewFather. But the good news is that we are definitely mashed in. I'm gonna let this sit for 10 minutes. We're gonna start up the recirculation, and we're gonna take a sample for pH. Oh yeah, smells fantastic. All right, 10 minutes is up. We're gonna turn on the pump. It's on full blast now. We definitely don't want that. We're gonna turn on the pump. We're gonna take a sample. We're gonna let it recirculate for about 3 minutes, let things get moving, and then we'll take a sample. All right. We are having some pretty good issues with the Blickman Riptide pump. So after some troubleshooting, I'm not even gonna mess with it. What we're gonna do is, to switch it up a little bit, we're gonna mix the mash a little bit. I've always learned in homebrewing that one of the things you do when you're mashing in throughout the mash process is once the grain bed settles, don't touch it. More and more I'm hearing people that are interested in practice regular mixing of the mash. So I'm gonna do that probably 2 or 3 times throughout this mash. It's another variable, so I don't know if my efficiency goes up. I don't know that I'll specifically be able to point to mixing of the mash specifically, or not utilizing the malt pipe from the Anvil Foundry. So in the meantime, I'm gonna be in the market for a new pump, and we're gonna continue on with this beer. Okay, we are done with the 60-minute mash, 10-minute rest. I'm gonna take a sample to get a first runnings gravity, kind of give us a sense of where we're at. We're usually always high on our first runnings gravity, so if we're high, it's not gonna really surprise me. The goal is to be high from your first runnings to your pre-boil, because you're adding water and diluting. So we're gonna take a gravity sample. We're gonna pull up the bag. What I'm gonna attempt to do on my own is pull up the bag, place the malt pipe hanging out of the unit the way we do, and put the bag in the malt pipe so that it can adequately drain and I can begin to sparge. I may need to call my wife from upstairs to come down and help out. We'll see. I will say the wort, this first runnings looks considerably darker than what it usually looks like when we first pull the malt pipe out. So maybe it did work. We'll have to see. Oh, all right. Try number 1, no go. All right, so my wife had to come down and help. What I found was I probably didn't really need her help. What I should have done was taken the bag out, placed it in a 5-gallon bucket, put the malt pipe on, and then took the bag out and put it in the malt pipe. It worked. A little touch and go, but it worked. So we're gonna start sparging now. Sparging with just under 2 gallons, but just by looking at it, I'm sensing we're gonna probably need all 3 that's in there. Okay, we added 2.5 gallons of sparge water, and we were shooting for 1.78, and we're at 7.65 gallon pre-boil. I forgot to change the software to account, the last beer we did was the wet hop beer, so I upped my pre-boil by a half a gallon and forgot to change the software. So we're sitting at a half gallon more than we need. If we have to boil off, I think I'll probably boil off an extra half hour. I don't know yet. Play it by ear, we'll see how it goes. The family's down here in the brewery this morning. My little son, my wife, everybody, my dog, and the dog's somewhere. Everybody's enjoying the brew day. So we're in the middle of sitting at 187, in the middle of getting ready to boil. Took a first runnings gravity, and I'm about to measure that and we'll see where we're at. What'd you get? What's that? All right, as you can see, we're starting to hit a hop break. The anvil says 204 degrees, so I'm not gonna take a pre-boil sample just yet. I do the Gash Slug method, Homebrew Network. I wait until there's a rolling boil before I take a sample for pre-boil. That way I know the wort is all mixed up. After further thought regarding a longer boil, what I think I'm gonna do is just let it go. I think I'm gonna do a normal 60-minute boil because what I'm finding is happening is I'm getting a low yield in my keg. Now that could be one of two reasons. It could be because, I'm putting 5.5 gallons in the fermenter. I'm thinking the reason why is because my dip tube isn't long enough. So I'm gonna try an extra half gallon. As I said, my normal pre-boil is 7.12 gallons. This is 7.65, just about 29 liters. So what I'll do is my normal 60-minute boil, see how much more I get in the fermenter. If I get more than 5.5 gallons, and we'll see what my yield looks like in the keg at the end. Now I am dry hopping as well, so that's gonna soak up some of the wort as well. So we'll do a normal 60-minute with the increased yield, increased volume, and we'll see how it looks in the keg. Sitting at 206. As you can see, this thing's climbing. Trying to mix it, get some of that down. If I have to, I'll add some firm cap. I just may have to. Yep, all right, 1, 2 drops should be enough. God, I love firm cap. All right, this thing is, we are boiling. I'm gonna hit the timer. I'm gonna take a sampley samp. Boom, we have our sample. Hit a 60-minute timer. The only addition we have on the boil is a 10-minute yeast nutrient addition. So I'm gonna continue on with this brew day, take a pre-boil and see where we're at. All right, let's talk numbers. Our first runnings gravity was 1.066. We were shooting for, on our pre-boil gravity, 1.051. Adding 2.5 gallons of sparge water brought it down to 1.044. So still low. That is about what I would get with the malt pipe and the bag. That's about what I would get with just the malt pipe. So that tells me we're low again. We were looking at a 62%. This recipe was made with a 62% brewhouse efficiency. So we're probably gonna be low. We're lower than that. So the bag only didn't necessarily work. We're gonna continue this brew day, boil. Right now, if all the numbers stay the same, sitting at about a 5.6% beer, so losing a whole percent off of the recipe. So the struggles with the Anvil Foundry continue. But we love 240 volts. The beers have come out really well. We've won competitions with the beers. but the experimentation continues. We've experimented with the mill gap. We've experimented with changing from 120 to 240 volts. We've experimented with the malt pipe. We've experimented with yields. The only thing we haven't done is a no sparge method. But with that said, you know, with a no sparge method, you have to add more water in the unit. And I don't know how that necessarily helps with brew house efficiency or with alcohol percentage. So the experimentation continues, but that's what this hobby's all about. We just started boiling. We're gonna continue on with the brew day, and we're gonna look forward here to the 10-minute edition and then the whirlpool, adding the Phantasm and calling it a day. All right, 10 minutes left in the boil. Throwing in a whole tablespoon of yeast nutrient. We usually go pretty heavy-handed with the yeast nutrient. It's relatively inexpensive, and I haven't heard or read any studies where if you add too much yeast nutrient, you can mess up the beer. I could be wrong, but we'll see. We do quite a few things. I do quite a few things within the brewing process to ensure quality fermentation, quality beer. One of those is adding Fermaid into my yeast starters. So we have liquid yeast, Omega, and so I did a yeast starter, and what I have started doing is adding Fermaid. It's a powder that's supposed to help aid during the fermentation process of your yeast starter to give you a healthier yeast starter. We had yeast nutrient, during the boil. We try to do the right things to ensure good beer. So it's pretty tried and true for us. Haven't really missed or messed up any beers because of it. So that's what I do. We have 8 minutes left until the end of the boil. We're gonna whirlpool, hit it with the Phantasm, throw this puppy in the fermenter, not in that order. We're gonna continue on here with this brew day. Pretty good so far, other than the issues with brew house efficiency. All right, it's the end of the boil. I'm gonna shut this off. Power is at 0. We're gonna move this over to the window, cool it down to 175, and manually whirlpool for 10 minutes. All right, just connecting the hoses now. Always want to make sure you have the right ones connected. This is pretty standard for us in terms of cooling down. This is pretty much what we always do. We're always looking to improve the process though. And this thing is gonna cool down fairly quickly. Seconds is what I'm saying. Make sure everything's nice and tight, no leakage. Already sitting at 202, and I haven't even turned it on. The one thing with this is I have to make sure that I work out all the kinks. The hot water should expand it though. Let's turn it on. Leak. Alright. Leak already. Let's tighten that bad boy up. Oh yeah, that wasn't tight enough. Alright, let's try that. Okay, already down to 185. Jesus. All right. 177, 176. All right. Let's pull it out. I'm gonna mix it up first because a lot of times it's only cool. All right. I'm mixing this up now. There are a lot of kinks in that hose. I gotta get a new hose. I've been putting it off. I gotta get a new one. My biggest concern is not fixing the kinks and then hose water leaking into the beer. All right, so actually mixing it up, we got to 172. I'm actually gonna keep the beer over here instead of moving it over to and plugging it back into the 220. It's just easier. I'm gonna turn the unit so I can see it. Still sitting at 172. I'm gonna let this heat up to 175, and then we will start the whirlpool. Okay, we've hit 175 degrees, and now it is time for our whirlpool. Popping open a fresh can. Oh, interesting. Not really fresh, they're 2020, but Galaxy hops, 2 ounces. Going in. There's a relatively newer packaging method, 2 ounces of Citra going in, and I'm gonna stir this for 10 minutes. Hit the timer. And for the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna stir, just like this, to mimic a whirlpool. All right, it's time to transfer. I'm gonna take a gravity sample in the middle. Get some nice aeration going. And this is probably a pretty good time to take a gravity sample. A little bit more than we need. Smells pretty damn good. And now I'm going to start adding the secret ingredient. It smells kind of like a mix of honey and asbestos. Not great, but it's going to be fun. This is 6 ounces of Phantasm going in. Looks like pencil shavings a little bit. Let's make sure we're getting every last little bits. All right. Yeah, it smells sweet. The Phantasm may be actually causing like some extra foaming. It's almost like mudding up a little bit. It's like thickening, which is interesting. It's almost kind of seems like it's forming like a layer on the top. It definitely does smell like grapes, I'll say that. I mean, that makes sense, right? It's grape skin. Sitting at 5, just about 20 liters. Not taking into account that layer of Phantasm. There's the yeast starter. I'm gonna decant that in a minute. Sitting at over 21 liters now. 5.5 gallons. Oh, you know what? Actually, I had the spigot turned quarter of the way to the right, so it's still getting a little bit of the trub. It's still, not the trub, it's still getting a little bit of like that hot matter settle into the bottom, but not too bad. Trying to get all the yeasty boys off the bottom. As you can tell, there's still a good amount on the bottom that I have to rustle up. That's the downside. You have to make sure when you're decanting, you don't decant too much liquid, too much of that starter wort, because you don't want to, I mean, I could probably throw in some of the wort from the gravity sample I took. But we're working. It's coming off. All right, I'm gonna pitch now. The reason why I'm pitching here and not in the fermenter is I think I'm gonna shake it up a little bit. This is a nice little layer of Phantasm sitting on the top. So I'll pitch now, shake it up to make sure the yeast, the Phantasm gets fully, fully into the solution. Okay, pitch that yeast. Let's put this, oh, you know what we'll actually do? We'll also drop in the tilt hydrometer. Spraying it with some Star Sand. Drop that bad boy in that way. Now I can close it fully. Get that thing fully closed. Put the lid on just a little bit. Take it, stir it up. All right, get everything looped in there, and now we're gonna take this and put it in the fermenter. All right, here we go. Here we go, we are now in. All set. Fermenter's ready to go. I gotta tape the temp probe to the fermenter. Now gonna hit it with 10 PSI. Phantasm looks like it's pretty well mixed in. All right, final numbers. Sitting at 0.51, we were shooting for 0.66. So big time difference. Again, it's about par for the course right now for the anvil for my numbers. Gonna have to adjust the efficiency way down. Back to the drawing board on trying to figure out what it is exactly is causing the low efficiency. Again, we've tried everything, grain mill, this and that. So the plan now is to let this ferment out. Gonna dry hop and go from there, looking at about a 5% beer. So a big drop in what we were looking for, but you know, I really love brewing with the Robo Brew. We get 70% efficiency, 71% efficiency. I get on the dot, don't have to worry about it. But with that said, you know, still a good brew day, still so much fun. The Phantasm layers looking good, and we'll report back on the tasting. Thanks for watching. L'chaim. Okay, I pitched the yeast at about 11 a.m. this morning. It's now 8:30 and we're starting to see fermentation. So the yeast starter definitely did its job. Got some bubbling up there. And we are on our way. Oh, interesting. Look at this bubbling. That is so interesting. I did just let out some pressure. We were sitting at about 15 or so PSI. And so I let it out, so we're sitting at about 9 now. And so maybe that may be that bubbling coming up, but yeah, fermentation has definitely already started. On our way. Pretty cool. Okay, we are less than 24 hours post-pitch. Sitting at about 0.36. As you can see, there's a nice about quarter finger fluffy krausen that's bubbling away. Sitting at just about 60, it says 66, but I think it's 68. But looking good so far. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's nice little fireworks. I call them fireworks, but looking good so far though. Okay, we are under 36 hours post-pitch. We are sitting at 0.15. As you can tell, I don't know if you can see that or not, the krausen is getting alarmingly high up. I'm not gonna mess with it. We're sitting at 2, 4, 6, probably 5 PSI, sitting at about 5 PSI. Under 36 hours post-pitch. And it still looks like this thing is rocking and rolling. You can see the little floaties. So, I haven't had a fermentation go this quick in a long time. I'm about to go to bed. It is past 10 o'clock Sunday night. I'm just gonna hope that the krausen doesn't get any higher and start leaking out of this here airlock. And we'll see what we wake up to in the morning. But this thing is still very much alive. Okay, it is currently 7:30 at night on Monday. This morning at 11:30 marked 48 hours. So probably sitting at, just under 60 hours, just about 60 hours. And as you can tell, we've got a nice little yeast cake that is formed. But the beer itself looks fantastic, smells awesome. PSI did fall. This unit, this spunding valve is very, very fickle. Just the tiniest little turn can affect the PSI. So we were actually, right around 6 p.m., 5 p.m., we were sitting at like 2 PSI and I turned it up. And now we're at probably 5. So it is still fermenting a tiny bit. It got down as much as 0.14. Right now it says 0.17. So what I'm gonna do is, it does look like there's very little, if any, activity right now in the fermenter. As you can see, there's a little bit of movement. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take a sample to see where we're at for finishing gravity. And if I like where it's at, if it's right in that 017 mark, what I'll do is we'll dry hop. And then we'll do a diacetyl rest for 24 hours together. And then I'll start the cold crash. So the process of taking a sample is actually relatively simple. I have this nice little picnic tap setup, if you will, ball lock side. And then just a little picnic tap with some nice threading, nice tubing. Plug it in. I have 2 plastic cups because I have sanitizer sitting inside the tubing. So I'm gonna run off the sanitizer with a little bit of beer on the first cup. Pretty simple. We don't want to dilute our sample after all. And then I take a second sample with full beer. Try not to take too much, don't want to get too greedy. And there it is right there. There's the sample. Wow. Pineapple, huge pineapple. Wow, mango, damn, that smells amazing. I'm almost afraid to dry hop with it. I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna end up having to clean that, and then I'm just gonna give the top of the Firmzilla just a little spray with some food grade sanitizer. And then what I do is I close the fermenter, and I'll show you because it's under pressure. So when we ferment under pressure, you're adding carbonation to the liquid. And so what we really want to do is pull the carbonation out to get a more accurate sample. When the sample is carbonated, it can produce an inaccurate sample. So I'll show you how we do that. Okay, in order to help degas the sample, I call this the Brian short-circuited method. What I do is I take a funnel. I can't remember if he does it this exact way, but the concept is the same. I take a funnel and a coffee filter, pop them in, and then I take my sample and I run the sample through a coffee filter. The goal being the coffee filter helps degas the sample. And I let that run through. If I have to do it another time, usually I do, but I run that through and then I throw in the hydrometer, and that's how we take a sample. All right, that is sitting at just about, I'd say 1.009, 1.010. I'd say taking into account how it's dipped down. Yeah, we'll call it 10, 1.010. I would say that is very, very much done. That beer is fermented out. We'll get an ABV on it. It's definitely more than the 014 that's currently reading on the tilt. So we're gonna dry hop this, and we're gonna do a diacetyl rest. Under 3 days fermenting. Pretty crazy. Just about 60 hours of fermentation time. Okay. I got 2 ounces of Citron Galaxy. Spraying it down with some sanitizer. Pop this pouch open. This is the only time with the Firmzilla. With the Firmzilla, you can use the collection container on the bottom to dry hop. I haven't done that in a really long time, years. What I do is lay these hops up here. I pop off the top, and I just dry hop from the top. Minimal oxygen is getting in truth. And I'm gonna throw it back on CO2, and I'll purge a couple of times with the hope that any oxygen that did get in hopefully dissipates. It is done fermenting, so there is a concern from that standpoint. It's no longer producing CO2, so I understand what people may say, but this has worked for us for a very long time. I don't know if you can hear that gas. I left some residual gas in there, so popping it open made it a little bit easier. Hit the top. I don't know if you can see that. Throw in the hops. Boom, boom. Throw the top back on quickly. And that was open for all of 7 seconds, if that. Put the lid on. I'm gonna grab some CO2. Hit it with some CO2. And then put the spunning valve back on. And right now it's sitting at about 15 PSI, so I'm gonna turn it down. 10. 10 or 11. Good to go on the dry hop. And now we're gonna turn it up to 70 degrees for the diacetyl rest. And any good brewer worth their weight in salt will test the product. It's, you know, a little bit not as cloudy as I thought it would be. This is a, you know, a test tube, so in a glass, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot cloudier. We didn't use any Whirlfloc tablet or any type of clarifying agent. Yeah, man. Huge, huge pineapple. Big time mango. Almost like a peach, an underripe peach. I'm gonna go in for a sip. Oh wow, that's fun. That's fun. I'm gonna have to remember, it's a pale ale. You know, this is gonna be a little bit, probably a little bit over 5% at 0.10. I want to see how it tastes carbonated. That's good. I get that grape skin character for sure. For sure get that grape skin character. I do get a little bit of the pineapple, a little bit of the mango. It's a little lighter on the body than I thought. That could be a water chemistry thing. But I'm really excited to get this thing carbonated, kegged, carbonated, and I want to taste the finished product. Because if that's what it is, I may be brewing this more than once. This is fantastic. Just something I wanted to show real quick before I head upstairs to take a shower and go to bed. About an hour after I took a sample, the tilt came down to 0.10. Pretty cool. Nice to see that we're on point. The tilts I've had in the past just really haven't worked very well. I put them in there more as a guide than anything else. This is one of the first times that it's actually been pretty solid and accurate. But 0.10, we'll see if it changes anymore with the dry hop. Maybe it'll rustle up some more fermentation, but I suspect 0.10 is where we'll end. Okay, we are okay, we're a full 24 hours into the dry hop. It is Wednesday, right around 6 o'clock. At 8 o'clock or 8:30, it'll be 24 hours into the cold crash, I meant to say. And we are currently sitting at 40 degrees. The pressure all fell out of the fermentation vessel. So I'm just gonna leave it. Nice, beautiful, nice little yeast cake with some hop usage. It looks, for the most part, that the PHANTASM all kind of fell to the bottom, which is nice. It'll be good for transferring. 2 more days. Today's Wednesday, so Friday I'll probably plan to transfer this into the keg. Less than a week after I brewed it. Okay, if you've followed the Instagram, you've seen my setup, right? But this is a little bit of an up close version. I got a CO2 tank running some air for a closed transfer in the Firmzilla. At first I thought that these were mold, but the more I look at them, and I'm gonna open up the unit, but the more I look at them, I believe that it's the Phantasm. I've never had mold before in this, and it just wouldn't make sense. But anyway, I have closed transfer setup coming all the way down. I have 2, as I get out of the light, I have 2 big boy bouncer filters that are gonna filter out any of the little nasties. And then I have return going right back into the keg. I have a nice little handy dandy scale that weighs how much liquid is going in, and that's pretty much our setup. All right, it's a beautiful day out today. It's Friday, November 4th, and this is the first tasting on the Phantasm beer. I have a shooting range not far from my house. Far enough legally, I guess. It's like white noise at this point. Taking a look, it looks amazing. It actually looks kind of dark in that light, but looking at it, it looks awesome. Quarter finger head, poured it nice and fast. This thing looks very nicely carbed. I did like a day and a half, 2 days on 30 PSI, probably about 24 PSI, and then I turned it down for probably, I'd say 7 to 10 days. I really let this thing kind of do its thing. I was in no rush to drink it because we're sending it out for the experiment, but I am very thirsty. Off of work, worked from home, first beer of the day. We have our Brew Tubers Online Brewers Club meeting tonight, so I figured there's no better time to try this beer. Let's get a nose on this. Oh yeah. Oh man. Pineapple. And almost, it does have like a winey kind of character. Mango. The aroma on this thing is awesome. Oh yeah, that's fun. Trying to pull something else out of it. I'm getting a little bit of that dank character too, like that dank hoppy character. I'm so excited to try this. L'chaim. And happy Friday. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh baby. Front part hit you with a bitterness that is so soft. Wow. I do get a little bit of that grainy character, sweetness, almost like a hay, got the sweetness. Man, Brandon ordered initially 2 pounds of this powder, and then he brought it back to a pound because I told him, I go, what are we gonna do with 2 pounds of it? And then we disseminated the pound to a few other brew tubers. That was a bad move. We have to brew with this Phantasm powder again. From the grape perspective, as you saw, we added the Phantasm right before we pitched the yeast. Added it during the transfer from the kettle to the fermenter. That Phantasm hit at the end is fantastic. It's kind of like a grapey, definitely that grape skin, if I were to think that grape skin character. It's a little sweet, but it's got that depth it's got that grapey depth. I probably look like such a weirdo doing this outside. I've been living here 5 years. If you don't know what I'm doing yet, I don't know what to tell you. Oh boy. Oh man. All right. This thing is awesome and very appropriately carbonated. You know, as much as I hate it, I hate carbonating and waiting 7, 10, 14 days. This might be the way to go. This is very, very nicely carbonated. And when I pour as fast as I did, usually the speed, you know, if it's pouring really fast, I get a ton of foam because it's probably a little over carbonated because I let it sit for 3 days on 30 PSI, or 2 days 30 PSI, and then another day or two at 15, 20. It probably ends up being too carbonated. This is perfectly carbonated. This beer is called Weaponizing the Juice because Dave, Brandon, and I took the Phantasm with what we've learned from New England IPAs, and we are trying to isolate and weaponize that juice and unload it on people. I am unloading my juice on people. I'm weaponizing my juice. And that's what this is. A fantastic, fantastic beer. Oh man, definitely well carbonated. I'm actually gonna go top this off and go upstairs and relax. We do a nice little cocktail hour here at the Lesegor household right before dinner. So I'm gonna go enjoy myself. I hope you enjoyed this video. Cheers, l'chaim. Use Phantasm, experiment with beers, because when you do, sometimes they come out like this. Cheers.